it's you, the UN agency, providing the draft program to them, the receiver of wisdom, the receiver of UN wisdom. And this is why I pointed out about the reciprocity. It's never that way. Then you tweak the program. You want it. They want it for long. UN agencies will always want long programs, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. And having my experience with rural development, when we used to work even with Center for Environment Education, Himalaya, or with the ICR program, you can't get people in rural areas to sit down for more than 2.5 days. Even for us in 3 days, I still have that, that anxiety. How am I going to justify your sitting around here for 3 days when you have other things to do? And especially for people in rural areas, they're certainly not going to sit around for 2.5 days waiting for wisdom to fall from the UN skies and be enlightened. So they're going to say, no, 5 days is far too much, we want 3 days. And so that negotiation will go on, eventually you settle on something. Then you tailor the program accordingly. And then you get to the point where you want to know who are the participants, where they're coming from, what work do they do, what interest do they have in this, and what do you need to get those participants here. And invariably, the ministry of and administration officials would say that, look, we'd like these many people to come, but we are probably going to fall short of money. In which case, my email would go to the representative of that agency or that convention or treaty on the ground there in whichever country it was, saying, look, could you release a little bit of money so this poor fellow can at least hop into a bus and come to wherever we are going to have this meeting? And there was never any answer because they couldn't do it, or they wouldn't do it. And this is the thing that I think is really symptomatic of the way a UN agency treats those who it makes a point of saying it is there to help. This was absurd. I mean, these have been in absolutely point blank, outright absurd situations. It's beyond comic. I mean, we were in Sri Lanka in Kandy, and I was running a program there together with another facilitator. And on the final day, there was no attention given by anybody whatsoever, but there was a lot of confusion, a lot of arguing, etc. And what happened was that they had run out of money to pay for the bus to go back from Kandy to Colombo, and then the participants would disperse from Colombo on their own. But the bus from Kandy to Colombo, they didn't have money to pay for anymore. And of course, the participants being, from, very much less than middle class homes, were saying, look, you told us that you would pay for it. We can't pay for it on our own. Why should we? And so on and so forth. So what we did is we said, look, just tell us how much the bus costs. We'll pay for it. That is me and my co-facilitator. And eventually that's what we had to do just to get them back to Colombo. So, of course, it was great loss of face for the Sri Lankan national authorities. At that time, it was the National Archives in Colombo and the Department of Education. It was split between both these, the cultural sector. But for the participants, they would have been stuck there and left to their own devices to get home to wherever it was, northern province, southern province, anywhere, Trincomalee, wherever it was. You neither recognize them, nor do you understand, and this is something that used to irk me every single time, nor do you understand their mode of living. You do not know what they have to face from season to season, how they organize their household income within their difficult circumstances, how they conduct their craft or their art. And therefore, even the most elementary socio-economic profiling that, look, let us understand where you make your money from. Out of this, how much comes from your art, whether you are selling it or whether you are teaching it, or your craft, the same thing, and then see how we can help you. None of that would happen. So if I would insist on the host ministry or the host administration providing that, then it would be routed back to UNESCO saying, the regional center, which, for example, for Sri Lanka, the regional center for UNESCO would be here in Delhi. This is being asked for. Can you please provide data, which again signals a total gap in the national administration side, because they don't have any, because they haven't been told that this is going to be required. I've been to them in for example in Central and Eastern Europe, in two of the countries there, only in order to talk about certain aspects of our work in Asia. But they did seem to, I mean, those are also quite poor countries. They did seem to have some way of dealing with it, which is better than how we deal with it. Part of the reading of life, which the UN agencies consistently and religiously fail to do, because I mean, I have to come to that conclusion given all the evidence that I have accumulated. That is what they're designed to do. They're not designed to solve these great problems which they have drafted and which they have crafted. They're not designed to do that. They're designed to do very much the other kind of thing, which we've got our notes down on. This the propagation of the neo-colonial project, and this has to do with a lot of the UN agencies that have anything to do at all with environment, nature, water, rivers, forests, and so on, because all of them touch this part of indigeneity. And this to me is, I mean, it's it's danger on the scale beyond the graph, out of the charts, because this is in fact a mode of mind control about the self that has already taken root. Do you know how many experts and consultants they have on their roles, on their roster? I don't know whether they're active or not. Anything is too few, but do you know how many? Last I heard this was from a gentleman again in Sri Lanka. He was part of the World Heritage Committee for some time. 26,000 all around the world. What do these fellows do? So that's as far as one UNESCO convention is concerned. The FAO Global Consultation on Food Security and Nutrition, which I was a part of during my 5 years with, not 5 years, but about four of the years with the Ministry of Agriculture ICR program. And then because I continued to work with that in a quite a critical way, for some reason I was kept on, and I'm still technically part of it. This is the group of people who are supposed to provide advice to one of the apex FAO committees. It's called the Committee on Food Security, which I think for 2 terms was chaired by MS Swaminathan, who people may have, I hope they do have mixed views about. I don't have mixed views about him. Or his daughter. That, when it began, it had about 11 or 1,200 people. Today, do you know how many they have? 25,000 and counting. They're growing at the fastest growing region for gathering people into that is Africa, the African region. And to my surprise, it was to me about 12, 13 years ago, because I thought that the natural inclination of the African experts would be that, yes, we hear you, FAO, but leave us alone, kind of thing. On the contrary, it was completely the opposite. They avidly cheered what the FAO staffers and scientists would propose. They said, they said almost in so many words, whatever you do, do it here first. So, I think at some point we were talking about the use of not only of language, but of ideas, of borrowed language and borrowed ideas. And this was, I think, to me, one of the most glaring examples, one of the most disappointing but obvious examples of that happening in the very recent past.